Hi Scrapbookers, this is Megan and I am here with another layout for you today. For this one, I am going to be scrap lifting that layout that I was just showing you, and it is a layout from Scrapsbyjen. It is her 13th process video. So here I'm just kind of showing you that I'm going to be using the flea market collection from Maggie Holmes, and I had this green kind of off-whitish paper, and I wanted to kind of dull it down. So I spread out some gesso on the background, and in Jen's layout, she did some she didn't do misting, but she like okay, I don't know how to explain it. So she misted on packaging and then moved it around on the layout. I don't know who started that, but it's kind of a popular thing to do these days, and so I was really excited to try that for the first time. So here I am cutting down the photos while the background is drying, and at first I was thinking I was going to do them as 4x4s. But then with this photo of me and my middle son, Brennan, this was taken last year, the one of us together, there was kind of a bunch of extra space on the right side. So I decided that I was going to make them 3x3 instead. So here I'm just cutting down the photos to be 3x3s. And this layout took me forever. Oh my gosh. It was like the hardest layout I've made in such a long time. I believe, let's see, let me look in my notebook. It took me 1 hour and 20 minutes to make from start to finish. And that actually didn't even include the time that I spent on my silhouette and trying to, figure all of that stuff out. So here I am with the packaging and my spray mists. I used two colors that I made myself. I just used yellow, and how I made those was I just put a little bit of acrylic paint in the bottle and then I filled it up with water. The yellow wasn't really showing up very well, but the red showed up really well. So that looks really good. So I'm going to actually pull out a blue color as well, and then also a yellow color. I believe it's called Desert from Mr. Huey's by Studio Calico, or from Studio Calico by Mr. Huey. I don't know. Whatever. Sorry. So it was really, really dark, and so I didn't want to spread it around too much because I didn't want it to be too dark. So then I decided to just spread it around and then use a diaper wipe to kind of make it a little bit lighter. So here I'm just cleaning up the packaging, and then I'm going to set that aside. Oh no, I think I'm going to grab my heat gun and I'm going to try to heat it up a little bit. At this point, this was actually the day after I did the gesso. I let the gesso dry overnight. And since the watercolor wasn't that wet, I decided to just use my heat gun to dry it. So now I am thinking that I want to use some frames to go on top of those photos, and I don't have a whole lot of frames. I knew that I had a couple of frames, but I could not find them for the life of me. So here I'm just kind of going through some elements and sticker books and things that I might want to use that I have on my desk. And then I found this frame, and I believe that came in an Echo Park. I'm not really sure. It was a boy kit. And then I'm looking through this February scrap stash kit that I still haven't finished up using, and I haven't put it away either. I thought maybe I had put the frames in there, but I didn't find any. And so I'm going to spend kind of a little bit of time trying to figure out what I want to do with these frames, because I wanted 2 frames and I wanted them to be similar. Because in Jen's layout, she had 2 that were pretty similar. They were different frames, but they were similar. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time doing that. Here I'm pulling out some more embellishments and things that I might want to use, and I actually don't end up using any of this stuff that I'm pulling out right now. I don't know why it always happens like that, but I end up setting it aside, and so I forget about it. So okay, so finally I am going to find the one that I was looking for, and it was actually not the right color. I didn't want it to be yellow. I wanted it to be white. Even though my son was wearing a white shirt, I still just didn't want it to be yellow. I didn't want it to be colored at all. So I was thinking I could cover up the yellow with my matte gel, but that just wasn't going to work out well. So I end up putting it back in, and I turn it over and I realize, hey, it's white on the back. So I could totally just use that. So I decide that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm thinking, well, I still need a second frame and I still want to use this one, square one with the rounded corners. So I'm pulling off the vellum that's behind, well, it's not even vellum, it's a transparency that was behind the frame. And here I'm thinking, well, maybe I could cut it to be the same shape, but that's not going to work either. So I start putting the matte medium on the back of this frame. And I'm thinking, okay, that might work a little bit better. But in the end, I actually don't even go ahead and do this. And even though the matte medium is white, it actually dries clear. So I don't even know why I did that. I could have just used the gesso. But for some reason, I just really wanted to use the matte medium. Okay, so here I am trying to just move forward with my layout. I was pulling out some of these papers from the Maggie Holmes collection, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. In Jen's layout, she did a bunch of different layers behind the photos. And so I was thinking that I would use this floral, the little floral paper, and then I really liked this black diagonal. Then I also pulled out this pink chevron, and I'm just going to kind of mess around with this for a little while, and then I'm going to kind of give up because it's just, I don't know. Sometimes it's just kind of frustrating when things don't just automatically work out. So here I'm going back and forth and back and forth and trying to figure out where I'm going to put this little cluster. I really liked these 3 pieces that I got from the cut apart sheet that was in the paper pad. And so I wanted to make sure that I put those somewhere, and I'm thinking that I'm going to put them up in the right hand corner. Okay, so here I finally had my silhouette. It finished cutting out the white cardstock paper, and at this point I was thinking, hey, maybe I could just use this as like a frame, you know, and have them together, but that I just didn't really like that. Then I had this chipboard, and I wanted the frame to stand up on like on chipboard. And so I was going to put the chipboard and then put the cardstock on top of it. But at the end, for some reason, even though I used the same cut file, the cardstock was like bigger in some places and smaller in other places where like they didn't match up, and I didn't understand why. I was so frustrated at this point. So finally, I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to use the chipboard pieces and I'm just going to put some gesso on top of them, and then that will make them white, and then I can move on. So here I am. I'm going to put this quite a bit of gesso on both of these frames, and then I'm going to set them aside to dry. And I step away for a little while and then I come back later on that night, and um, I tried to make sure that the gesso, or that the frames weren't like glued down to the cardboard, but in the end, when I come back after they dry, I do end up ripping one of the frames. So I will show you what I end up doing with that. So there I am done with the gesso, and I'm going to just set those aside. Now I'm going to start, what am I going to do now? Sorry, it's been a long night. I don't really remember what I did. Okay, so I was going through a couple more pieces of the paper and thinking maybe I should use yellow and this wood grain in the background instead of the pink chevron, or maybe I should use the pink chevron with the wood grain. And so I'm just kind of playing around with this. Then finally I come back and the frames are dry, and you can see there in the upper right hand corner of that frame that's around Jess Brennan that I kind of ripped the frame. So that was kind of frustrating. Here I'm going to put them down on each one of the photos. And once I've done that, the layout just kind of works. And, well, okay, not really. It doesn't just fall into place because, yeah, I still have a ton of time left before I actually figure out what I'm going to do. But here I'm just thinking about where I want to place these three, I don't know what you call those, cut aparts? Yeah. So I'm going to glue the photos down to the pink chevron paper. And then I pull out this black diagonal, and I'm thinking, you know, I really like the way this looks, to just have a piece on top and a piece on bottom. I really like that look. So I cut it in half. One of the scrap pieces I cut in half, and it's not straight, so I have to straighten it out. And I think even now it's still not straight as I'm looking at the layout, but you know, whatever. So here I'm just placing that top piece on there, and now I'm going to start gluing down these cut apart pieces. I pulled out that badge from close to my heart, and it says love on it. And I'm actually going to put that away. It's not going to stay there, and it actually doesn't even come back onto the layout. So here I'm going through a drawer that's just to the left of me, where I keep a bunch of my die cuts that I make on my silhouette, and also chipboard pieces and wood grain, or not wood grain, sorry, wood veneer. I had also had this sheet of corrugated paper that I had cut out shapes on my silhouette already, and there was that banner. So I placed that banner underneath that left photo, and I'm just kind of looking for, I don't even really know what I'm looking for here. I do grab this wood veneer arrow, and I'm going to put that there. Then I had this previously cut out silhouette tag that I'm going to put down there underneath that banner on the left side. Then I had these cork hearts that I'm going to put in 3 different places on the layout. I put that banner right there underneath the left photo, and then I'm just going to kind of play around with a couple different pieces. Here I'm still pulling out more pieces. I found some of these enamel dots that I made myself that I had made into shapes, like that yellow one is a sun, and then I pulled out a white one, or well, it was kind of like an off-whitish one that was a cloud, and then I found another really white one that was a cloud as well. So here I'm just kind of playing around with the placement of things and kind of cleaning up my area a little bit. There's where I take off that love flare, and I'm going to put this little chipboard piece up there with that cloud. Now I'm going to start gluing down all of these embellishments, and I wanted to make sure that that heart was popped up, but the pop dot that I grabbed, or whatever it was just like a line, not a pop dot. It just was too high. So I decided to use this other kind of pop dot. It was just some squares, and then I used some Zots to glue down that cloud. Now here I'm placing down that chipboard piece, and that was from Studio Calico. I got that in a kit from a couple years, well, I think it was 2014. And now I'm going to glue down the sun, and I accidentally bend it and break off one of the rays. So I'll have to glue that one on separately, and it was pretty easy to put it back on, so it wasn't too bad. Okay, so now I am still kind of thinking I am missing something, but I glue down this tag, and then I glue down this cork heart. Excuse me, I'm really tired. Apparently I need to go to bed. And then I use my Tombow Mono Glue to glue down the wood veneer arrow as well. And now I'm going to pull out this sticker sheet. These are just foam stickers from Amy Tangerine, and I'm going to use the XO. And that is just going to be my title. It's just XO. Then I also pull off this heart, and I'm going to have it, place it right there above that photo around that cork heart. And then I'm going to, the tag was a little bit crooked and it was bothering me, so I tried to fix it. I think it's still a little bit crooked, but it's all good. So here I'm using the Studio Calico, or no, that one's not Studio Calico. I think that one's from Stampin' Up. And I was thinking, so I was putting the date on there, but then I was also thinking I would use one of the little sentiments that they have next to the date, and I would stamp that onto the corrugated paper there, but it didn't work like at all. I thought it would work at least a little bit. Nope, not at all. It's just a bunch of lines. And I was just like, that's great. So I went on and stamped the date, and I stamped it a few times. And then I'm going to move the heart, these two hearts, I'm going to move those up off of the photo just a little bit. And then I'm going to pull out this black pen and do some journaling. And I say, I love my Brennan so much, so glad he's mine, and so proud of him. And that is pretty much the end of the layout. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.